Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Matthew Baxter, who is the CEO of Wedge, the one-way recorded video screening tool. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Hey, so I love when I hear, one-word company names and then also this one-way recorded video screening tool. I really want to dive in and learn what you do and what your competitive advantages are. But I am pretty confident that you're a seasoned veteran in the world of entrepreneurial ventures. So give us a little bit of background on yourself and then what led you to found Wedge.
Seasoned is a very kind and polite way of saying it. I would consider myself professionally ADD or professionally scatterbrained, but we'll call it seasoned. That sounds way better.
Okay, yeah.
So long story short, I started my first company at 15. It was a lawn care and landscaping company. Literally, when I say company, I mean I was a chubby neighbor kid that push mowed a few lawns, and fortunately, that was a great business to be in at a pretty young age, and had a lot of support from the community, and that business just started to grow and grow. And so hired my first employee as a senior in high school, and fast forward my sophomore year of college, I had about 7 employees, and we had a nice little book of business with a landscaping company, and got approached and had a chance to sell it at a pretty young age, which is just a absolute blast, a really fun experience. And not saying it was perfect throughout it, but it was definitely a great experience. And that 6-7 years, the lessons that I learned became invaluable, but probably one of the most important ones was, wow, I enjoy this path that you can call entrepreneurship, whatever that may mean. And that lawn care company fueled a couple problems that I saw in the hiring world and talking to a lot of different business owners that started the launch of Wedge. So Wedge is as you described, a video interviewing tool. We help companies hire, and we can get into obviously the details of that, but since Wedge was about 5 years ago, and so it's been a wild ride and a blast. I also am a founder of a company called the Hopper Popper. It's a toilet seat foot pedal raiser. I serve on a couple tech boards as well too, and I've got a podcast myself, so I love what you're doing. But my main core business that I'm putting 100 hours plus a week into, week after week, is Wedge, the video interviewing tool as well. So professionally scatterbrained, I think is a great appropriate segue.
Yeah, that's great, but I will also bet that since you know that about yourself, you also have people on your team that keep you in line and keep you from getting too scattered and keep you focused. So you have to know that, right? You can be the visionary, but you need to have that person that's like, Matt, we got this thing today, or hey, we got to keep on. So you need to have that. So I think that is just something huge, a conversation for a different day. But let's talk about the one-way recorded video screening tool, because I know as you were describing that, I've got a client specifically right now that has 80 to 100 employees, and they literally 1 week ago said, oh yeah, we were just hiring for this new position, got 120 resumes in, I'm sifting through that. Can you imagine however many interviews they've got to go through and what your tool could save them? So let's describe that, and what does your tool do for employers?
Yeah, so you described it, quite frankly, a very perfect scenario for us to come in and help. So you think about the traditional hiring process on the company side. You post your job, you get resumes, applications, the early stage of things that come in. Then you got to sift through, filter those, figure out which ones are great, which ones are not. And then oftentimes, obviously, some of this is a little pre-COVID world, but even in the midst of COVID world, you typically, the next stage would be a phone screen. And then dependent upon the seniority of the role or what type of position you were hiring for, oftentimes the phone screen would lead into an in-person interview. And then typically, depending upon the type of role, you may have multiple interviews and then ultimately a hire, and you go through the process, right? So, but let's specifically talk about that stage, what we consider the pre-screen of the resumes, applications that lead to the phone screen, right? So you get all these applications, and some look good, some look decent, some look good enough. So you bring them in, you schedule for a phone screen. Oftentimes, so there's a couple problems that emerge among that. Number one, people oftentimes are not that honest about their resumes, or maybe somebody has a great background and not capable of articulating that onto a resume. And that's perfectly okay. That makes them no less of a qualified candidate. It's just different, right? And so you bring them in for, a phone screen, and in the matter of probably 30 seconds to a minute, you're either just trying to figure out if they're willing to show up for the call, and you're not even going that in depth into who the person is. And really, you're making a pretty quick judgment. And then the third piece of it is it's probably one recruiter who's taking notes and then passing that along to the hiring manager or to the team or whatever that may be. And so where our solution comes in and helps is that pre-screen to a phone screen. So you can ask, 3 to 5, 1 to 10, we can get into product details later, but a couple questions via video. You invite the candidate, they respond on their phone, desktop, laptop, tablet on their own time, and then those videos come back to the company and you get to review this. And what you're doing is you're taking that 120 resume stack that you're talking about. You get to see tons more candidates than you would have time to phone screen in just as much detail, and then able to take that same exact video and share it among team members and act as a collaboration piece, so it's not as good as one person's note on a phone screen. And there's just so many benefits. And obviously, you could get me excited for the next 25 minutes talking about that, but the real bread and butter is the efficiency part of hiring. We can help you see more applicants in less time and saving time and money for both the recruiter and the hiring managers. And also, you can get more and more people's opinion and collaboration a part of the hiring team than you otherwise would be on a phone screen, or it makes it really expensive to bring anybody in the same room sort of thing. And so we really see benefits in kind of the scenario you're talking about, any company that's doing a ton of phone screening, resume stack review, all that. So I can go on and on about it, and I don't want to bore your ear off, but we can really help a lot of companies and have helped a lot of companies in that scenario.
Well, one thing you mentioned that jumps out at me is in the education space, when you're growing up and you're like, I just can't take tests. You get some kids that fail a test, but you give them an oral quiz or oral test and they know their stuff spot on. They just can't, they freeze up. So same with a hiring, you might look great on paper, but you can't put two words together. Or you might be really flowy and can really, give a snow job in an interview, but man, when you dig in, you were just, it was all surface. So maybe your tool is going to help really kind of be the honesty barometer, or the really cutting down under the layers to get down quicker rather than a series of call to Zoom meeting to in person. And now you find out, wow, we just wasted a bunch of time. So is that really one of the biggest?
Yeah, I was just about to say, to add to that. So part of the, similar idea, I was a average student. I was not, I was not a 1.0 GPA student by any means, but I definitely was not a 4.0 GPA. And as I was thinking about potentially applying for jobs before I started Wedge, I thought to myself, I'm going to put together a resume and I'm going to have my 3.2 or 3.3 GPA or whatever it was, which is nothing, noteworthy, applying for these pretty high-end jobs. But yet I started and sold a company, and nobody's going to care to see that. All they're going to care about is my GPA or my ACT score or whatever that may be. And to me, again, I'm not trying to say, that was anything glamorous, but I felt like there was so much more to me as an applicant than just the 1 or 2 or 3 qualifying characters that they're looking at. And what a shame for the number of missed candidates or students, or, hey, I don't have 10 years of experience in this industry, but I darn well can learn quickly, and I can be one of the best candidates you ever have, for somebody in the middle market and not just a student. And so that was the other side of the equation. It's not just helping companies, but allow candidates to share more of their story than just a single sheet of paper.
Well, isn't it true that some people you just click with like right away? Like as an example, when we were talking right before we started recording this episode, it's like we just are like, what's up? What buds? And sometimes you can just really click with people, but your resume or your background wouldn't really reflect that really good connection. And you don't know that until you engage. Here's another thing. Haven't you seen many? I mean, you could pretty much close your eyes and point to some CEOs where it's like, wow, they are vibrant, and wow, they don't even have a college degree. So you cannot say only high-performing CEOs will always have this, and this. So you've got to find a way to look through that and see where that really good connection is. And I think if I'm hearing you correctly, your tool is going to be able to quickly cut through that clutter to maybe give that really step in the right direction. Now, you still might not hire that person. You still got to go through your regular paces, but it's going to help you, help some of those opportunities bubble to the surface better.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, this is not, we are not pretending to, remove resumes from the hiring process, and we're not pretending to remove, Zoom calls or in-person interviews or any of that. We're trying to be a very cost-effective and efficient platform to allow you to have a better understanding of who that person is before you move them to the next step. And that's where we're identifying and showcasing and allowing people to see more than just a single sheet of paper before they bring them into the super expensive parts where they may know in the first 30 seconds, and that's a waste of time for everybody. So what you just mentioned, you're spot on. We're helping identify and understand a little bit more who somebody is rather than just what they've done.
So let's now not get into the weeds, but let's speak to the person that goes, wow, I would love to have those things, but you mentioned the T word or the S word, and I'm a little nervous, technology and software. So I can barely turn my computer on, some people might say. Speak to that person to go, listen, all you got to do is this, and it just is so drop dead simple, or the interface is. What is the experience like for an HR person that goes, they don't want to learn some other tool and be clunky and cumbersome?
That's one of the best questions, one of my favorite questions to answer, is because I think for one, our testimonials, both on the candidate side and on the employer side, speak for themselves. Everybody refers to our product as not only the easiest to use in the industry, but also just a remarkably easy tool to use. You can set up a job, you can add questions, and you can invite candidates in under 5 minutes. I mean, today You could sign up and you could start inviting out candidates and be ready to roll. Same thing on the candidate side. All they have to do is click a link, enter in like 1 or 2 pieces of information, and then they're into the recording process, and they can be done, obviously depending upon how long the interview is, but they can be done in under 10 minutes. It's that. I mean, that's the whole point of this is a time saver, and part of the reason to make it a time saver is just make it easy. We're not trying to be the most robust or extensive technology service in the market. We're trying to be the easiest to use, the most effective. And so my answer to that is, obviously, we're happy to help anybody who's scared or a little technology averse. Totally fine. We'll get an onboarding session call. We can help people with that. But at the end of the day, we're an easy to use, simple platform that can just allow you to go through the process really, really simply and get back to the other important parts of your day.
So I'm a hiring HR manager, and I'm going to enter in some job applicants that I've recently received resumes from. I go in and put in first name, last name, email, enter. First name, last name, email, enter. It sends out whatever the pre-programmed invite is. You, Matthew Baxter, get it, and you go, oh, cool, I'm being considered for this job. You click this link to go into the tool, the Wedge tool, and what are you doing as the job applicant? What is the next step for you?
Yeah, so a little that's dependent upon how the company set it up. There's obviously some in the weeds details about it, but let's just take a normal case, and let's say the normal case is the company's asking 5 questions, and they're going to give me 1.5 to 2 minutes to respond to each question. So I click my email, I enter, first name, last name. I'm brought into the platform. I'm given a test question, so I get to experience what the product's like before we're actually, going at it. And then you're prompted with a question. So let's say the first question is, tell me about the last position and what did you like about it that you held? Something like that. The candidate would answer that question, and then dependent upon, companies can either allow retakes or one take. We encourage most companies to say, hey, allow retakes. It's just a better experience for the candidate. So I can answer that first question. I can rewatch it, decide if I liked it, if I didn't like it. If I like it, I move forward to the next. If I didn't like it, I get to re-record. And then depending upon how many questions there are, let's call it 5, I answer the other 4 more questions, and then I'm done. So in total, it may take you, 1.5 to 2 minutes per question, 10 minutes total, and you're done. And then that video is completely taken care of in the Wedge platform, stitched together, shipped back to the cloud, fired off to the company, and then you, as the hiring manager sitting in your pajamas drinking a glass of wine, can watch all the candidates come in, watch the videos, and you can filter through them however your typical hiring process continues there afterwards.
And that brings that resume to life so much better, I can envision, because you're going to get into the flow of going, okay, you're going to be able to tell right off the bat, like this applicant that sent me this video clip, they didn't comb their hair, they're wearing sweats, and really you're trying to apply for a upper level or whatever the case might be. You're going to find your flow and go, ooh, this one really is articulate. This one is well spoken. This one answered it spot on, or this one's like a dumb politician. They didn't even answer the question. So I think that from an HR standpoint, it really helps you to be able to go, okay, let's dog ear this one because that aligns well with not only the resume, but also what we're looking for.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then one other piece that I would add is that let's say you have your own set of qualifications that you want to look for in the candidate. Let's say, I don't know, we're hiring for an operations role and you're the hiring manager. You may want to bring in the operations manager to get some insight into the candidate because they may be, their direct reportee and all these different things. So rather than like a phone screen, you have to invite that person to sit on the call, or an in-person interview. You got to invite that person, deal with schedules and coordination and all that jazz. What you can do is you can actually just take that same exact video, send it over to the operation manager and say, hey, operation manager, here are my thoughts on candidate Matt Baxter XYZ. What did you think about them? And they could watch the video as well. And that's where it gets really cool, is because you get both the decision maker for the hiring side and the decision maker for the actual job description side of things, interviewing the same exact candidate, reviewing the same exact candidate, giving their thoughts, and then moving them through the process without having to deal with anything scheduling related. And that's where it gets really fun in the collaboration space.
Yeah. And it's so much better than just looking at pieces of paper or PDFs on the computer, because all of a sudden your eyes seem to glaze over and it's like, ugh, because I've not been ever in the hiring or HR world, but I can only imagine that if you start looking at 20, 30, 50, 100 resumes, they all start sounding similar because they go to the same templates out there. It's like, well, my desire, my objective is, and it's like, really, who are you? So it even is possibly do a benefit and a really a generous way to offer to job applicants, a way for them to make themselves look stand out to in the job process, right?
That's exactly right. Spot on. Yep.
So so at this point, I love how you say you just keep it simple. I'm sure you can have like 19 bells and whistles. Ooh, and then it could. But, at some point, I remember I used a tool called Basecamp 37 Signals, and they are known in their book for saying, we kept getting all these people going, oh, can you make it do this and that and the other? And I'm like, no. We want this tool to do this. And if you want other whiz-bang things, go find something else. But we want this to be simple. And I kind of tongue-in-cheek say this a lot. Hey, guess what the best CRM is for your marketing team? And people start like, oh, well, it's this and that and the other. I'm like, nope, it doesn't. And the joke is, it doesn't matter what CRM you choose. It's the one that you will use. And just like what you're saying here, it's like you can have all kinds of bells and whistles, but if it gets to be cumbersome or a little bit hard to work with or way more than what you really need to do the one job, now people are looking at it a lot differently, and you'd make the price point higher. So I love that it's just a simple, easy interface, and it accomplishes the one tool or the one objective.
That's exactly right. And we understand that, HR teams and just the business world in general is sort of tool overload. Everybody's got a new gadget and gizmo and software solution. You tool hop from one to the next. And so we wanted to be, that's the last thing we wanted to do. We didn't want to be another tool that you had to have a huge onboarding process to understand and learn and figure out where does it live in here and here and there. We just want to be a simple tool that you can use very easily. It integrates with your applicant tracking system, and it basically, you can set it up, start inviting candidates and forget about us and just review candidates and go about your day. So, easy to use is one of the most important things and kind of a part of our DNA as we build this company and continue to build it and go forward.
So what's on the horizon as far as next steps? Because I don't want to think about, and then we could, but when you're working with an HR department that has, many users, obviously you want to be able to say, hey, down the road, here's what we're envisioning to be able to serve you better.
Yeah, so our business has grown. Fortunately, we've grown like crazy in the midst of the COVID world because so much have shifted remote. And so obviously it's just, broadening our horizon as far as the companies we're serving and the, industries that we can help support. So certainly just the growth attitude is our biggest, forethought. But to complement that, and what has helped drive so much of that has been integrating with applicant tracking systems. So similar to the CRM comment, so many different HR teams use what's called an applicant tracking system, the management system that helps process candidates through. And so it would be forming, continuous partnerships with those that we can have a broader reach for the customers that we service. The applicant tracking system benefits because they can offer video interviewing to their clients. And it's just a win-win-win all around. And so definitely formalizing more partnerships as we begin to scale and rapidly scale like crazy. And then quite frankly, that's our next 18-month strategy. So you caught us right there. Obviously, there's constant tweaks and changes and product improvements and candidate experience and things that we're constantly focusing on. But the biggest thing is, the growth and servicing more organizations, and obviously growing our partnership base as well.
And the thing that I love about hearing what you said is it's not changing, new iterations and pivoting and changing. It's the same thing. You might put a little polish here and a little polish there on the user experience, but you're just saying, oh, well, where else would our customers need us to be? We'll just make it easy for that. It's not changing everything and making it 10x better. It's just making some little small improvements, but being where they need you to be. And then once you have that dialed in, the universe of people needing this tool, the HR directors and the companies out there are just huge and unlimited almost, because guess what? Most companies that hire and use your tool today, let's see, they need to hire again next quarter, next year, and it's something that is going to be used ongoing, as opposed to like in the real estate industry, oh, hey, I helped you buy your house, call me in the next 10 years when you move again. So your tool is going to be something that they constantly rely on.
Yeah, it's fortunate. HR is not typically, the fastest on the buying cycle, but they're very, very loyal once they purchase your product. So our churn is super low. And so same thing that you just talked about. Once they're using the product and it's embedded in their system and they're used to it, they're never going to uproot it, right? And so it's certainly a benefit to us, and obviously benefit to them as well too, which is the most important.
Well, I love it. I just love picking something really, really specific and simple, and providing an easy way to get that done. And it helps both parties, both the job applicant as well as the interview process. So thank you for your time coming on today. What's the best way, Matt, that people can reach out, learn more about the product, maybe pick up a copy and see how it would help their organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to learn the most about the product is just wedgehr.com. That's wedgehr.com. And then also, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn and accessible through there. And yeah, we're happy to connect with anybody, both to help them on their hiring side, and if I can help in any way as well too. It's fun to connect with a bunch of different folks like yourself as well. So happy to help however we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.